Imagine being a software developer tasked with building a modern smartphone app without internet access. No Google, no GitHub, no App Store. In North Korea, this isn't a thought experiment. It's daily reality. North Korean engineers operate in a world where global digital resources are completely out of reach. There's no access to open-source code, no online forums, and no real-time updates. This is the reality for North Korean engineers. Their workspaces are tightly monitored, and every digital move is scrutinized. They work in a technological vacuum, cut off from the global digital ecosystem. Even basic software updates or bug fixes require state approval and are often delivered by hand, not over the air. Their mission: create a digital life for citizens using only state-approved offline tools. Most development happens on outdated hardware, with software libraries that are years behind the rest of the world. Every feature must be built from scratch, stifling creativity and making true innovation nearly impossible. There's no Stack Overflow to consult, no YouTube tutorials to watch, just trial, error, and whatever knowledge can be gleaned from state-issued books. The state's solution isn't invention, but imitation, mandating developers to mimic, not innovate. Teams are often given screenshots or even physical printouts of foreign apps as their only reference. North Korean developers study foreign apps, especially from South Korea, dissecting every detail to replicate the look and feel as closely as possible. They painstakingly rebuild interfaces and basic functions, often without understanding the underlying technology or having access to the original code. The result is a digital world that appears modern but lacks depth and freedom. Apps may look sleek, but they're stripped down, with limited interactivity and no access to the wider web. For citizens, these apps seem sophisticated, but it's all a carefully constructed illusion. Most users have never seen the real thing, so the imitation is convincing enough. The goal: project technological parity and national strength, using technology as a tool for propaganda as much as for progress. All the while, information is kept tightly controlled. Surveillance is constant, and any attempt to access unauthorized data is met with severe consequences. In North Korea, the digital stage is set for show, not for progress. Behind the curtain, the reality is one of isolation, imitation, and relentless control, where true innovation is sacrificed for the sake of appearances. North Korea copies South Korean apps to create an illusion of technological progress and to keep up appearances, both domestically and internationally. This strategy is deeply rooted in the country's history of isolation and its Juche ideology, which emphasizes self-reliance, even if that self-reliance is only skin-deep. By mimicking popular apps, the regime can claim, "We have this too," reinforcing the narrative of strength and self-sufficiency. This mirrors past efforts, like North Korea's own Red Star OS, which was designed to look like Western operating systems but with strict controls. Familiarity is key. Citizens who've heard of apps like KakaoTalk or Naver are more likely to adopt local clones. In the early 2010s, defectors reported that North Korean versions of South Korean dictionaries and news apps were already circulating, making the transition to cloned social apps a natural next step. This approach co-opts South Korean influence, but always under strict state control. For example, the SamChat app, a clone of KakaoTalk, is only available on government-approved devices and networks. More importantly, imitation allows the regime to embed surveillance at the deepest level. Case studies of North Korean apps show hidden features for keyword monitoring and remote access, as revealed by defectors and digital forensics experts. Every message, photo, and location can be monitored, turning smartphones into tools of compliance. In 2017, researchers found that North Korean apps could remotely delete files or track users' movements without their knowledge. True innovation is risky and requires freedom, neither of which the regime tolerates. Historically, North Korean developers have worked in isolation, with limited access to global trends or open-source communities. Copying is efficient. The design and features are already proven in the South. This saves time and resources, which are scarce in North Korea's struggling economy. North Korean developers simply replicate what works, often using smuggled manuals or pirated software as guides. This practice dates back to the 1990s, when North Korea began copying foreign technology to bridge its digital gap. The result is a modern-looking product that's easy to adopt and easy to control. Even the most advanced-looking apps are designed with surveillance and censorship in mind. In North Korea, imitation isn't just flattery, it's policy. From operating systems to messaging apps, copying is a calculated move, rooted in history, enforced by policy, and shaped by the regime's need for control. To copy South Korean apps, North Korean engineers must first get their hands on authentic South Korean devices, often the latest Samsung or LG models loaded with popular apps. Smuggling is essential. Phones are purchased on the Chinese black market, where traders specialize in sourcing South Korean tech. Sometimes, diplomats and business travelers are tasked with sneaking devices across the border, hiding them in false-bottom suitcases or among legitimate electronics. Defectors' devices are a gold mine. One former defector described how his old Galaxy phone, packed with KakaoTalk messages and banking apps, was immediately seized and studied by North Korean officials. Once inside North Korea, these phones are treated as classified material. They're stored in secure labs, often sealed in evidence bags, and only accessed by trusted engineers. Teams of engineers meticulously dismantle each device. They use forensic tools to clone storage chips, extract app data, and reverse engineer both hardware and software, sometimes even using custom-built jigs to bypass security locks. Their goal: to map out the design, user experience, and security features of key apps like Naver, KakaoTalk, and South Korean banking platforms. This shadowy network of smugglers, defectors, and engineers forms the backbone of North Korea's digital imitation strategy, turning every acquired phone into a blueprint for their own technology. The journey begins when a South Korean smartphone crosses the border, often hidden or smuggled, and lands on a North Korean lab table. Step 1. A team of engineers, sometimes led by experts with backgrounds in electronics, carefully dismantle the device. Every screw, chip, and wire is cataloged. They analyze the hardware, processors, memory, cameras, comparing each part to what's available domestically. According to defectors, this step reveals both the limits and the possibilities of North Korean tech. But the real challenge is the software. Engineers dive into the Android system, peeling back layers to understand how everything works. They document every menu, setting, and app, sometimes even hand-drawing interfaces. For example, when cloning a South Korean messaging app, engineers map out every button and notification. Step by step, they use the apps extensively, mapping out every feature, animation, and user flow. Experts say this hands-on approach is crucial for accuracy. Screenshots, flowcharts, and notes become the blueprint. For instance, a banking app's login process might be broken down into a detailed flowchart, step by step. All of this happens offline, no internet, no outside help. Security is paramount. Engineers rely on foundational knowledge and painstaking observation. Sometimes they turn to decades-old textbooks to fill in the gaps. The process is labor-intensive, with teams assigned to mimic every detail. Experts emphasize that this is the only way to achieve a convincing clone. The goal is to capture the user experience, not just the code. For example, a North Korean news app might look and feel identical to its South Korean counterpart. This deep dive provides the raw material for building convincing replicas, setting the stage for the next phase. In North Korea, reverse engineering is both art and necessity. Whether it's a camera app or a messaging platform, the process is the same. The final step, rebuilding from the ground up, using every insight gained to create a near-perfect clone, ready for North Korean users. With only documentation and the app binary, North Korean engineers begin a painstaking offline reverse engineering process. No source code, no internet, just raw files and determination. They load the app into disassemblers and hex editors, converting machine code into assembly or pseudocode. This lets them trace the app's logic, instruction by instruction, and reconstruct how each function operates. Teams manually map out workflows, drawing flowcharts, sketching UI wireframes, and linking user actions to code segments. For example, pressing a button in the app is traced to a specific function call, which they then try to replicate. The focus is on the front end, visuals, navigation, and user interactions. Engineers meticulously recreate menus, icons, and transitions, often pixel by pixel, to ensure the clone feels familiar. Complex back-end features, like cloud storage, real-time updates, or online authentication, are stripped out or replaced with offline alternatives. For instance, a login screen might be hard-coded to accept any input, since there's no server to check credentials. The goal is to replicate everything users see and touch: menus, pop-ups, animations, while ignoring the invisible server-side logic. Testing is done entirely offline, with engineers simulating user scenarios to catch bugs. The result? Standalone apps that convincingly mimic the originals in look and feel, but lack any global connectivity or real-time features. In North Korea, imitation is about surface, not substance. The cloned apps are digital facades, functioning only within the country's tightly controlled, offline environment. With blueprints ready, North Korean developers set out to recreate the app's look and feel. For many users, the first encounter with these apps is a moment of genuine surprise. One user recalls thinking, "It's just like the real thing I saw in a movie." Designers meticulously copy icons, layouts, and color schemes, matching the original down to the pixel. Side by side, the similarities are uncanny. Even the smallest details, like notification badges or tab bars, are faithfully reproduced. Every screen, button, and font is reconstructed for maximum familiarity. Developers even analyze animation sequences frame by frame to ensure transitions and gestures feel authentic. Animations and micro-interactions, like sliding menus or bouncing buttons, are carefully imitated, often using creative workarounds to compensate for limited hardware and software libraries. The goal: make the clone feel polished and modern, even if the underlying tech is basic. Developers test on older devices to ensure the illusion holds up, even when performance lags. Functionality is simplified. A mapping app might use static maps, swapping out real-time navigation for preloaded images, to mimic the experience without live data. A social app connects only to the national intranet. For users, chatting with friends or sharing photos feels modern, even if the network is tightly controlled and isolated. The illusion is powerful for users who've never seen the real thing. One user describes the experience as opening a window to another world, even if that world is carefully curated. The innovation lies in the art of mimicry, not in the code. Technical comparisons reveal that while features are often missing, the visual and interactive cues are nearly identical. North Korean apps are digital stage props, convincing but hollow. Developers prioritize appearance over depth, often leaving advanced features as non-functional placeholders. The performance of modernity is all about appearances. For North Korean users, the experience is convincing, until they dig beneath the surface. Beneath the polished surface, North Korean apps are built for surveillance, but it goes far beyond simple monitoring. Every message, photo, and file is logged, scanned, and archived by state servers. Technical analysis reveals that even deleted files are retained in hidden system folders, accessible only to authorities. Apps may tag photos with user IDs and locations, making anonymous sharing impossible. Experts say this metadata is embedded at the system level and cannot be removed by users. Mandatory watermarking ties every file to a specific device, deterring unauthorized sharing. Forensic experts have confirmed that these watermarks persist even after files are transferred or edited. The illusion of privacy is shattered. Every digital action is traceable. Logs can reconstruct a user's entire digital history, from app usage to file transfers. Smartphones become instruments of state control, not personal empowerment. Defectors report that border guards routinely inspect devices for forbidden content using built-in surveillance tools. Surveillance isn't a flaw, it's the core feature. Permissions for camera, microphone, and storage are enabled by default, with no option to disable them. In North Korea, the real innovation is in monitoring, not technology. As one cybersecurity analyst puts it, these apps are less about connecting people and more about keeping tabs on them. The Arirang smartphone is North Korea's showcase of its cloning strategy, but it's also a window into daily life and digital aspirations inside the country. Marketed as domestically made, it's actually assembled in China and rebranded before being shipped across the border. The software is a heavily modified Android, stripped of Google services and filled with state-made clones. North Korean engineers adapt open-source code, customizing it to fit government requirements and local needs. Local app portals replace the Play Store, and familiar interfaces mimic Samsung and Apple designs. The experience feels modern, but every download is monitored. Even games like Angry Birds are recreated, along with productivity and dictionary apps. These clones are often nearly indistinguishable from their originals, though some features are missing or altered. These clones offer real utility, encouraging adoption and surveillance. Technical analysis reveals that many apps have built-in monitoring functions, logging user activity, and reporting back to authorities. The ARRI phone is a perfect example. Foreign hardware, open-source software, and carefully crafted imitations. Hardware analysis shows mid-range components, but the software is tightly locked down, preventing installation of unauthorized apps. The package projects self-sufficiency, but the price is constant oversight. The government uses the ARRI as both a symbol of progress and a tool of control. For users, it's a taste of modernity, served with a side of surveillance. One former user recalls, "It felt exciting to have a smartphone, but I always knew someone was watching." For many, the ARRI is both a lifeline to the digital world and a reminder of its limits. Why do North Koreans use these apps, even though they know every tap is watched? For most, there simply aren't alternatives. These apps are the only digital tools available, and for many, the only ones they've ever known. Even with restrictions, these apps bring real convenience. A student in Pyongyang, for example, uses a dictionary app to study English, while a young mother relies on a digital map to navigate the city's bus routes. The state provides these devices, making them both a tool and a symbol of trust. For many families, receiving a government-issued phone is a milestone, proof they're trusted enough to be connected. In cities like Pyongyang, owning a smartphone is a status symbol. Young people show off their latest models, and taking selfies in public has become a way to signal modernity and success. Social and professional life increasingly revolves around these devices. Office workers coordinate projects, friends share photos, and students collaborate on assignments, all through state-approved apps. Surveillance is a fact of life. One Pyongyang resident describes it as just another part of the background, something everyone is aware of, but few openly discuss. The real choice isn't between freedom and control, but between having a monitored app or having nothing at all. For most, the risk is worth the reward. Despite the risks, people find ways to connect, learn, and share. A father might use his phone to show his children educational videos, while friends gather in parks to chat and play games. In North Korea, digital life is a daily compromise, balancing the desire for connection and progress with the reality of constant surveillance. For most, the benefits still outweigh the risks. North Korea's cloned apps reveal a stark truth: technology can exist without freedom. In this digital age, the regime has built a facade, modern on the surface, but closed and controlled underneath. Citizens receive sleek devices and apps, but these tools are embedded in a system designed for surveillance, not empowerment. The paradox is clear: more technology, yet tighter control. The internet's true power lies in connection and the free flow of ideas. But North Korea's intranet severs that link, creating a walled garden that reinforces isolation. Apps function only within this digital cage, limiting access and shaping reality. As outside information seeps in, the gap between real and fake may become clearer for some. But what does it mean to have technology without freedom? We asked Dr. Min-jae Kim, a technology policy expert, for insight.
Dr. Min-jae Kim, expert interview. North Korea's approach is a textbook case of digital authoritarianism. The state uses technology not to empower citizens, but to monitor and control them. It's a reminder that innovation alone doesn't guarantee liberty.
Case studies from defectors reveal the double-edged nature of these devices. One former resident, who wishes to remain anonymous, describes how smartphones were both a lifeline to forbidden information and a constant source of fear.
Defector interview, voice disguised. We would sometimes get South Korean dramas or news on our phones, but we always worried about being caught. The phone was a window and a trap at the same time.
Academic research echoes these stories. A 2022 study on digital authoritarianism in North Korea found that while technology has modernized daily life, it has also deepened the regime's grip on its people. Ultimately, technology is just a tool. Its impact depends on who wields it. In North Korea, the digital cage is gilded to look like a window to the world, but for many, the bars remain all too real.